I greatly appreciate you coming on the program tonight. You've written an excellent book, and a lot of people wonder, is there a life after death? Why are we even here to begin with? There's so many questions throughout the ages of human existence, for that matter. So why did you decide to write this book? What was your main calling to do this?
Well, you just brought up, we did at the beginning, there's three major fears all human beings share. We have the fear of failure, the fear of being alone, and the fear of dying. And we all share that across the board. And for me, the answer is the fear of dying showed up so loud in my world, and it was back in 1996, so it was a while ago, but it was petrifying. I can't tell you that there was a moment that something happened that I started questioning it all, but I think for a series of my life not being so great, having my share of heartaches, going through some unsuccessful times, failures in my life. Dad had gotten diagnosed with cancer when I was younger, given 3 months to live. He did survive, but there was the question that maybe I'd lose Dad. And then I'm sure you've had this. You look up at the stars and you think of this expansive universe, and suddenly we can become so small. And it's like, well, who am I? What is my life for? And all that really surfaced as a fear of dying. So I know this doesn't totally answer your question, but it's in a couple of parts, really, that put me on a quest to answer the question privately for myself, is there any real proof of life after death besides what our religions tell us, besides just having faith? It's like I needed more than that. So very secretly, I went on my journey. I learned so much over the course of 15 years. I collected all this, I call it evidence, but it was just for me. I mean, truthfully, Matthew, you're probably the same way. You learn a bunch in your life, and then now you're at a point where it's natural to share it. And little did I know that I was collecting things that someday I would share. And then my dad ends up getting diagnosed with cancer again in 2010, and then 5 months later he passes away. And it was the single hardest event of my life, because I love my dad. I grew very close to him those last 5 months. I relocated to be by his side and help him out. And through the process of losing Dad, the pain, the suffering of grief that popped in like nothing I had ever experienced before, it was absolutely brutal. And not just my own physical feelings and the depression, but also arguments that I had with my siblings that hadn't ever been there before, about everything, before or after he died. And I hit an all-time low, and I'm not somebody who said, I was going to say I was suicidal, because I would not take action like that, but I could really understand when we lose a loved one, it hurts so bad that you go through this awfully depressing time, and the more you love, the harder the pain. And it was like this little light bulb went off in my brain. It's like, I wonder if this is all part of grief, it gets this bad. And so I just did this journey. I wanted to know, what the heck happens in our brains, in our physiology, that this happens to us. And basically I found out some things that I had never heard of before about brain chemistry, about, even a lot of people don't know, love, and this may sound really tacky, but love is kind of like an addiction in our brains. We can become chemically attached to the people, the pets we have in our life. And yes, we call that love, and yes, it feels good, but when we lose somebody, that attachment is gone. And it's like if we're going through a withdrawal from a chemical dependency, severe withdrawals, and that's part of grief. So all to say, everything I learned about grief, I decided to record it all in one place. And I literally took a voice recorder and told my story for 70 minutes. It ended up created an audio called How to Survive Grief. I posted it on the internet. I bought the domain name survivegrief.com. Didn't know what I was doing, but I thought, what, if this could help me, maybe it could help someone else. You just go to the website, still there, press play, and you get some great information. Well, Matthew, what ended up happening was I posted it just a few times on Facebook, which I just thought were my friends. Anybody wants to hear this. Well, it started to spread, and within just a few months of Dad dying, 3,000 people in 15 countries had downloaded it. And that's just downloads. I have no idea how many people just pressed play, because you could do that also. And the reports started coming in from people, how they had less pain. Of course, I give tools to help relieve the pain, how they had better communication and more understanding with their loved ones. And then the final thing that said, I said, I really need to get this out as far as I can, is people started reporting that they chose not to commit suicide because of my words, because they were so deep in that depressed place. And most times we've never felt that before. And so they took my steps to help release the grief, and they're still on planet Earth. So I got enough of those kind of emails that I think somewhere within all of us we know the right thing to do. And the right thing was, how do I get these words to the most amount of people? And Matthew, it's been 3 years since my dad's died. I know a lot about grief. I help people through grief, but I'm not about grief. I'm not about being the grief lady. I'm very much about people living a passionate life while we are living. And so, all of a sudden I had this aha moment. How am I going to get to the most amount of people? Most people are afraid of dying. It's like, Sandra, if you can be courageous and tell your story of why you believe in life after death, and the title right there on my radar screen, We Don't Die, pretty bold statement, and deliver on my evidence, share my journey, have one chapter about grief, because we're all going to lose somebody at some point, and then the rest of the book is what I'm really about, and that's living a powerful life. So I know that's a very long-winded answer.
No, you're fine. I love the answer. The answer is wonderful. I got to ask you this question. You mentioned that what you said, the people listening to it prevented some people from committing suicide. Do you think that this, what you were saying, helped them realize that, the possible grief of their family members and their friends, maybe you sharing your heart and what you went through prevented them from doing that? Do you think that really made that impact like that?
There's no question. I had a gentleman look me straight in the eye after he listened to my audio, and he was grieving the death of a relationship. His wife had left him for another man, and I had just recorded it, and just on my laptop I had burned some CDs, and I told him, I'm like, hey, I think grief is grief. Take this and listen to it. And when he returned back to me months later, he's like, Sandra, you saved my life. And I'm like, I kind of blew it off, like, oh, well, thanks. He's like, no, and he stopped me, and his eyes filled with tears, and he had told me what his exit strategy was. And he said, I had it planned. He says, I have never in my life felt that much pain. And he says, I thought I was losing my mind. It hurt so bad. And he said, when I listened to your audio, he says, there were 3 times. He says, it was like you were in my own head. You knew exactly what I was feeling. You knew what thoughts were replaying themselves in my mind. You knew how I was feeling. Every symptom or byproduct, whatever you want to call it, of what grief is, he says, was what I was feeling. And he says, all I was left with was, holy cow, I did have a loss. It wasn't the death of a family member. It was the death of a relationship. She's talking to me. So this is the chemical change going on in my brain. And he started taking the steps to move through grief. And without a doubt, I really do, especially now that the book's been out a year, and the emails that I've gotten back, I have no question in my heart that the advice and the words about grief really do make an impact, huge impact.
Now, you call yourself a skeptic. I mean, you've written a book. I mean, it's a skeptic's discovery of life after death. Why do you call yourself a skeptic, and how did writing this book maybe change the way you think?
Well, it's funny because if you and I would walk through a bookstore together, and I saw the spiritual section, and I saw all that stuff, and the astrology, and the angels, and this and that, I would tell you, I can't even believe they have that section in the bookstore. People should know better. that's got nothing to do with real life. Life is in the here and now. I would be so outspoken and so cynical if somebody got their cards done, or they went to see like a psychic show or a medium show. I, more so than even a skeptic, it's like I knew that stuff wasn't possible. So the fact that I had the fear of dying that forced me to put aside those skeptical thoughts. I mean, the real reason, like I found out everything I did about life after death, Matthew, before 2005, and it is now the end of 2013, and my book is only now 1 year old. Like, why the heck didn't I write it way back then? There's a piece of human beings that we want to be like, and we want people to respect us. And I was so outspoken that anybody that believes in any alternative stuff is a nut job, that there was no way I was going to now say, well, I'm one of them. I believe in this. So all of us human beings share something really big, and most people don't even really know we have it, is we have this internal voice that's nonstop talking to us. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I too thin? Am I too fat? Am I worthy? Am I lovable? Am I good enough? We wake up in the morning, we look in the mirror. Most of the times we don't even want to get out of the bed. We don't have powerful things to say about ourselves. We have this inner critic, and I call it the voice, that just never shuts up. And, you know, the voice really comes from growing up and what our parents taught us. And when we have things happen in our life, we make judgments and decisions about ourselves and about others. And unfortunately what happens is now I'm a 47-year-old woman, but the voice is convincing me that these things I picked up maybe when I was a kid, whether it's I'm unlovable or not good enough or whatever, that's reality. So I think most of us live life as skeptics. We believe what we were taught, and it's very hard to bring in new evidence without the voice saying, nah, no way that's true. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And when I walk through life, everywhere I go, I wonder, I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I believe in the afterlife. I believe in these things. And I think I could walk down the street, I pick up my daughter from school, and I think, this is not random. This can't be random. I mean, me here today, I don't think this is random, this conversation. It's not random. I think there's almost like a design. The earth is here for a reason. The human race is here for a reason. I think we're here for a reason. I just can't say that it was like random protoplasm and random amoebas turned into human beings. I just can't believe that.
No, it's like, oops, we're all here. Oh, oops. Yeah, and it's so efficiently designed. And I don't know if you're like me, and I don't throw the word miracle around lightly, but I've had some mind-blowing miracles and things that have shown up in my life that it's just like, how, it has to be, and sometimes out of our most painful moments and our worst things, no matter what you're going through in your life right now, no matter how bad or uncomfortable or you might not be where you want to be financially, when we look back on our past, we've had times that were maybe equally as bad, but out of those times, we became who we are now. And so to trust that where we are now is lending itself to where we're going to be in the future, and it's all necessary. And I actually think, and, I believe in God too, and I believe we come to earth to learn, to love, to forgive, to grow, to have, maybe an education for the soul, if we can put it that way. There's certainly ups and downs, but I don't know if you know this or have read it, but there is literally at least 1,000 stars like our sun for every grain of sand on planet Earth. Mind-blowing, the vastness of the universe. We can't even possibly understand it all. And you're right. We're here on planet Earth with just the right amount of oxygen, having language, having technology. It has to be of a bigger design. It just has to be.
Yeah, and I share that belief. And, people say, how can you believe that? It's like, well, think about it. How can you being here today be so random? It's amazing. I mean, you mentioned it's like over 1,000 stars for every grain of sand the Earth out there that could be like our sun, which means you could have, possibly a planet like Earth, but we haven't found one yet. I mean, with all the technology that we have, we sent, several, Voyager missions out into space to find life, to communicate with extraterrestrials, and the universe is so expansive, we may never find anyone like us. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe there is no one else like us. Maybe we are just, let's put it this way. The universe, they say it's billions of years old. Do you think someone would have come here by now and knocked on our door and said, hey, we're here too? I think that. I mean, and I would think let us know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this voice that we have in our head, it's got a very efficient way of taking the big events that we've had in our life, like really big. You get married, birth of a child, you start a business, successes you've had, we've all had. And it's got this very efficient way of making them unimportant and they're no big deal anymore. So what is it we concentrate? We concentrate on the bad or what we don't have. But we actually, it has to take something for us to remember to give gratitude for something. Our minds right now are so busy, technology, paying attention. We hear a beep, or like a text message or there's a new email or something, and all of a sudden, like this world of technology and stuff becomes our reality. And now it's not bad. I mean, I'm not blasting because I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for the internet or talking to your listeners. But here's the thing. We haven't a clue how the internet works. I have an iPhone, and how in the world is that connected to all of the world, even though it's not plugged into anything? 150 years ago, if you were to tell someone about automobiles and that there's going to be this little box inside and it's not going to be a person, but it's going to talk and it's going to play music, the radio, people would think, that's the devil's work. There's no way that's real. Well, this voice we have in our mind, it's very efficient of making this miraculous world we live in be like, oh, it's just normal. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Holy cow, it's magical. We are all made up of energy. Everything we're looking at right now, the sound waves connecting us, we're all made up of energy. This is not hocus pocus. This is not New Age stuff. This is real science. And if we had a camera inside, an atom inside of our fingers, I'm looking at my fingertips right now, that camera wouldn't see anything. It would be empty because all that's in there is vibrating energy. And so I'm sitting in a room right now. There's wireless internet around me. There is radio waves. I'm sure there's TV signals. GPS somehow could pick me up where I am right now. And that's all this world of the invisible, but we don't question that, and this is a perfect time to throw this in. I hope you don't mind, but it just fits with this conversation. There's so many people ask me where heaven is, because I have had experiences that are, I want to say they're of the supernatural. There are things like I shouldn't know about people. I've had occasions that I've very accurately told people who their loved ones were that are deceased, what they look like, what their names are. I have had these moments of, I call it ESP. There's something called remote viewing. It's quieting the mind and having an intention of what somebody's got hidden in a box or what pictures are in a magazine. And every human being, when we quiet our mind, we can do these incredible, incredible feats. Even the most brilliant songwriters, and Steve Jobs is an example, Tina Turner, Paul McCartney with their wonderful music, Albert Einstein, attribute a quiet mind to being able to tap into the greatest inventions. So it really is something to this quiet mind. And I believe I just talked about this invisible world of energy, that when our bodies pass away, that our energy still exists, our personalities still exist, much as a pond or a puddle might evaporate and the puddle's gone, but is that water really gone? No, it's just changed forms. A log burns. Okay, the log's no longer there. There might be some ash, but then there's heat. Is the log gone? Well, the log's gone, but the energy still exists. When we die, our energy still exists, and I believe that heaven is in that same invisible place that is right around us, right in this world of the invisible, and that's how it's possible to have these really divine thoughts and these messages. And, there's so much evidence of the power of prayer, how that all works. Matthew, we are so much more powerful than we know. And you know that. I mean, you've had that experience, I'm sure, because I have this instinct of the powerful man I'm talking to right now. But we are so much more.
Well, we are, and you're exactly right. It's like people say, if I can't see it, I can't believe it. Well, you can't see the Wi-Fi, it's there. You can't see the radio waves, it's there. You can't see the heat. You can't see the ultraviolet rays. No. They're there.
Yeah.
So you can't see heaven, but it's there.
You have to realize that the one that's debating all of this is that voice inside of our head. And every person knows that voice. I can't believe there's a single person on this earth that's always telling themselves empowering thoughts. For instance, I don't know what goes on in your mind when you wake up in the morning, but if you're anything like me, it's not so positive. I look in the mirror, oh, geez, gotta stop eating the sugar. It's Christmas. How can I do that? Oh, I have to wait till January. Negative, negative, negative. And I'm concentrating on the negative, but it's autopilot. It just, even without me trying, that voice is throwing something in. And if I were to ask, say, for you, no matter what your voice is saying inside your head, if I were to ask the dozen people that are closest to you, what are Matthew's greatest attributes? They're like, oh, gosh, he's fun, he's loving, he's generous, he's sincere. Gosh, he goes so far out of his way for people, and like all this good stuff would come. And meanwhile, you're thinking, well, that's not a match for how I'm feeling right now. Well, who's right and who's wrong? Well, basically, you're wrong. Any time we have that negativity, that the voice is the one that's wrong. The people that are in our lives saying those great things, that's really who you are. That's the powerful person you are. And if we can allow those words, even though we might not believe it, if we can allow the words that people tell us about ourselves to take over, that's when we have a chance of success. That's when we have a chance of being courageous and stepping outside of our comfort zone. And many of us know that the only way you can get a new result is to take a new action. And, man, it can be pretty scary to do that. But, when we don't listen to the voice and take a step into something we fear anyways, that's where the magic happens. That's where the good results happen. And I think ultimately, again, that's why we're here on Earth, to learn.
Well, I think a lot of people want to live forever. I hear that, that complex people want to do. I want to live forever. If you want to live forever, you'd be a vampire probably. But I don't want to be a vampire. That's the only thing that lives forever is a vampire. Yeah, it'd be very boring. You see these movies that they're around for 1,000 years. They've seen everything, done everything. You're like, and they just want to die. So, but I have to ask you this. What purpose do you think life serves if we don't die? Like our form right now, what do you think that really serves in the end? I believe in heaven. After I die, I'm going to be judged in my religious beliefs based off my life and my actions and my works. So, what do you think life serves when we die to the afterlife? What do you think goes on there?
I think it's a great question. I go back to, and I can say this playfully, life is an education for the soul. I tell the story in the beginning of We Don't Die that I just ask people to just pretend for a little bit. I mean, you've got a copy of my book that I am a playful person, and I try to bring lightness to a heavy subject. And I just talk to the reader like I'm talking to a friend who's sitting across the table from me. There's no big words. But I talk about, just pretend for a minute that there's a place called heaven. And it's a place in the clouds where there's all good all the time, and it's just the best music and all the best food, and like whatever you want, you can have it, snap of the fingers, it's all there. It's all good all the time. Here's the problem. For eons that goes on, and like we just said, it becomes incredibly boring. It's like flatlining. When you have I went out for Japanese food tonight, and I love trying the different rolls, the sushi rolls and things like that. And gosh, I haven't had Japanese food for so long, and I thought, God, I could eat this every day. And then it dawned on me that if I could only eat that every day, that's my only food, it would get boring. And I don't even think I could taste the freshness of the flavors and the different flavors. And I love the ginger and a cup of green tea. Like, it wouldn't be special anymore. So playfully in the beginning of the book, it's like you're floating in the clouds, and after a while it's boring, and you're looking for something to spice up your existence. And then all of a sudden at the distance, you see a big line forming, like a line that forms at Disney World, when Space Mountain first came. 45-minute wait from this point, and all these souls are jumping in line, and this one little soul says to somebody else, well, what's this for? Oh, you don't know? There's planet Earth. Planet Earth is a place you get to go to learn. It's not boring. In fact, you get a body. Right now we get these theories of taste and smell and sound, but there you actually get 5 senses. You get ears, you get hands, you get a tongue, you get to taste. It's just great. And so you go there, and you get to pick the things that you want to learn. You want to learn to be more compassionate and loving, how strong you are, courage, all of this. Well, you get to pick things that you want to learn. You go there, and you get all these senses, and you get these things called emotions. Now, emotions are where you really learn, because there's things like love, but there's also pain. See, there's got to be an opposite for each one, because, as you know, here in heaven, it's all boring all the time because it's all the same. So to have sunlight, you got to have darkness. So that kind of thing. So, and I'm playful about this, but it really is posing the question that when we come here, I know, like I said, I'm 47. I've had a whole life behind me that is, holy cow, have I learned some stuff, right? And now I'm still learning. It's still an education. There's still new things coming. And I believe that, here, we got to have the good to have, we got to have the bad to have the good. We learn. There's so much, oh my gosh, there's so much I've learned in my life that I would never trade in. And then at the end of this life, see, this is one of the reasons that the last third of the book is about how to live powerfully as a human being now. Like, it's great to believe in life after death, but what does that really mean? It means if you believe in life after death, and you believe that this life isn't it, and you don't have anything to be fearful about death, well, then you don't have anything to be fearful about life, because you're never really going to be hurt. You can, I want to say push the limits, but I'm not talking about going 200 miles an hour down the highway. It's taking chances, taking risks, and living full out while we're here on Earth, not missing a sunrise, not missing your little kid walking for the first time, not missing, maybe we had some pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving, really soaking up the taste. Whatever that may be, like enjoying the ride while we're here, learning as much as we can. There will come a moment that we all will close our eyes for the last time here on Earth, and to look back on that like, wow, I've loved, I've learned, yep, did that, check that one off, yep, did that, no regrets, having faith that now we're going to open our eyes again, and you and I call it heaven, some call it the hereafter. Our loved ones will be there. We will, this is what I think, and I'm not going to push this on anybody else, but I believe that we regroup, we learn, we look back on this existence, what we learned, what we've accomplished. Somebody told me, and I love this, that a life review, it's not necessarily us having a flashback of our own life, but we actually get to see how we impacted other people while we were here. So we see our life review from someone else's perspective. And I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful. If that's true, I certainly want to do good things for other people that are around me. And so we go to heaven and we regroup, we look, we learn, we, who knows? Maybe we can be angels. Maybe we can be around our loved ones who are still here on Earth and cheer them on, while they're still on Earth. I don't know because I'm not there. I do know that I've collected a whole bunch of evidence from different, whether they be psychics, mediums, scientists, doctors, people that have studied near-death experiences, the reincarnation, the whole world, and I think, and this empowers me, and you or your listeners don't have to agree, and that's fine. But once our time is up, I think I like the idea of reincarnation because I think it would be good to recycle our souls. Why a child may only get a couple years or a couple months on Earth, like that doesn't seem fair. I'd like to think they get another chance, things like that. But I've heard this many, many times, that those people that we're in relationships with, we all wait for each other's time, and we all meet up again in the hereafter in heaven, and then at some point we choose maybe to play this game of planet Earth again, and maybe play different characters and learn even more. Because there's one thing for sure, no matter how long we are on this planet, even if it was for hundreds of years, we will never stop learning. And I think that's the ultimate reason we're here.
I agree. Well, before we wrap up tonight, I'll let you tell us more. Where can they find your book, and what's the website again where they can learn more about you and what you've done with this book?
Okay. And thanks for letting me talk so much. I just thought, wow, I just took over this interview. But
no, you didn't.
But I do.
I'm passionate. It's extremely interesting. You're very passionate. I'm a passionate person. When I get on a roll, I get on a roll. And when someone knows their stuff, I let them get on a roll.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So my name's Sandra Champlain. The name of the book is We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. The book is available worldwide, bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books, Nook, Kindle, all of that. I have the website, let me back up. I'm tripping over my words. WeDon'tDie.com. No apostrophe and after the end, but WeDon'tDie.com if somebody wants an autographed copy from me. And then also on that website is that How to Survive Grief audio. I had an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker who just did a documentary on my story because he went from being total skeptic and he read the book and he's like, oh my gosh, you changed my life. I never thought I'd be open, and so he filmed a great 50-minute documentary on me because, unfortunately, not every person will sit down and read a book, so they can watch my story in a video form. But WeDon'tDie.com. What else do you want to know? Sandra Champlain. I have a lot of love in my heart. People can email me. I answer questions, and I care. I care about people having a good life.
I greatly appreciate coming on the show tonight. A very, very great interview tonight. I got to admit, you know your stuff. You're very passionate about it. That's what I like. I like people with passion for life and want to sharing their experience. So thanks again for coming on the program. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thanks because you do the same thing for your listeners. So thank you for being who you are.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night.